ago, Shelley, you had brought up...
I'd rather be playing Doki Doki right now. And
Wow.
saying something. Wow. Yeah.
It's getting good. You got it. It's getting good.
For those of you who also watch Gamers Unbeaten...
Or who have not yet watched Gamers Unbeaten.
Yes. We've been doing... I think we've done 4 so far live streams of Doki Doki Literature Club. And I did not realize until this 4th installment...
don't spoil it for other people.
What kind of game it was, because Chris was like, don't research anything about the game. So I went into it, completely naively. Hijinks ensued.
Yeah. And still don't research anything. There are plenty of twists and turns.
Yeah, no,
you wanted to bring it back to China.
I did. And actually Shelley had started to do this, which is...
I tried, but then you felt like you really had to talk about Trump being a postmodern Ubermensch.
Yes, if it feels a very big brain thing I've discovered.
So in China, on Halloween last week, there was some big brouhaha in Shanghai, especially on the streets, because people who were dressing up in costumes, just like any costume, were being arrested by police.
Well, they wanted to essentially stop people from celebrating Halloween.
Yeah.
No Halloween in China.
Yeah, and Halloween in China, because it's not traditionally a place where kids go out and go trick-or-treating, right? So the Halloween in China is mostly like, in places like Shanghai, it's kind of like adults coming out and dressing up in costumes. I mean, it's like that in New York. It's like that in New York City too, where you have the West Village Halloween parade. But the whole idea is that they did not want adults to come out dressed in costumes at night.
Mm-hmm. Well, because people were getting politically subversive. This is the interesting thing about a high censorship society like China. Like, you see people finding all these ways to express discontent.
And then those avenues get closed off. Yeah. I mean, I think we showed in our episode about this last week on China Uncensored, we showed a bunch of photos of Halloween 2023 and all the costumes that were pretty subversive. Like, my favorite was like the person with the giant swab. The one where they're dressed up as
swab?
Like with the zero in China, they had these zero COVID dabais, right? Like the people wearing these like head to toe white, suits.
Dabai just means the big white.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm not telling you. I'm telling our viewers who may not speak
Matt
Mandarin.
made the right call, Shelley.
I'm not trying to correct your Chinese, Shelley.
Okay, I mean,
I'm just go on.
Because they're dressed in white.
Yes, I had already mentioned that.
Shelley, I don't want to fight with you because I'm right.
But this is the only way to achieve progress on our podcast.
To endlessly struggle against one another?
Yes. Because then you two will destroy each other and then there'll be only me.
So, Shelley, go on.
So there were multiple people dressed as these zero COVID guys, but then there was somebody who came in with they were carrying, and this is the impressive part, like this giant cotton swab that was taller than a person. And the photo was of them like swabbing a woman's mouth. So like there was like a woman leaning back, like pretending that she was going to get swabbed, and like somebody with a giant COVID swab. And this was too politically sensitive for the CCP.
Well, it was not too long after zero COVID ended, which was that saw massive protests where people were actually calling for Xi Jinping and the CCP to step down.
Like at the time, if you weren't watching China Uncensored yet, like at the time, people were being literally tested sometimes multiple times a day. Like you had to go
function
daily to go have somebody swab the inside of your mouth and make sure that you didn't have COVID in order to be able to move freely in society.
This was also a system that a lot of Western media promoted.
Well, I mean, at the time that they were promoting it, they were just promoting the lockdowns. They hadn't started the mass testing stuff yet. That wasn't until later. But yeah, at the time, in the beginning, like say February or March of 2020, there were like the World Health Organization guy who came out and was like, if I'd want to be in China.
They got it down.
Yeah.
New York Times. And we made an episode. It was called The Cure for the cure for the coronavirus is not authoritarianism, and YouTube took it down.
Oh, right.
They eventually reinstated it after a big fuss. But ironic, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that one was because we had showed actual clips of what was happening to people. Like this woman being dragged into like a box, and screaming,
People being welded into their apartments and starving to death.
I mean, I don't think anybody starved to death. I think we should.
They just went
there were
hungry.
people who did starve to death in these lockdowns, yeah.
Do we have...
Yeah. We can look that up, but yeah, definitely. I definitely remember people dying because they were locked down.
No. I think there were people who died because of like medical emergencies and whatever. I don't think that there's any proof that anybody starved to death.
At any rate, people were having trouble getting food. That's true.
That is true that people were having trouble getting food. People were having trouble getting medical attention for things that they needed to get medical attention for that weren't COVID, right?
According to Radio Free Asia, 22 die of starvation in one day under COVID lockdown in Xinjiang's Guzhia. Can't pronounce that.
Okay. Well, there you go. So, but anyway, so the Halloween protests, the idea of dressing up can be politically subversive. And this is like the whole thing where people are so upset with the Chinese Communist Party so broadly, but it's all very suppressed because of the authoritarianism. So people express it in ways, whether they are really conscious of how they're doing it or not, like it's coming out in all sorts of activities, and it comes out in like you dress up as a da bai with a big swab. Like you might be doing it specifically to make a criticism statement of the Communist Party, or you might just think it's funny, but often things are funny because they're subversive, and you're not really
there were also
thinking
people
about how it
who
could
dressed
be
up with
illegal.
like white paper, as like the white paper,
white paper.
protest
There was also
things,
a lot
right?
of like security camera things making fun of the
I
surveillance
think
states.
there was one this year. There was a guy in a security camera, right?
Yeah, there was a couple. My favorite was the guy who just had a big security camera head and like a nice white suit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was, when you say it was a big security camera head, it was
big.
enormous.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's funny, right? It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, but you can't have people make fun of the system that's supposed to take care of them and be in charge. You have to enforce this trust in the system from the top down.
Exactly, Chris.
Exactly.
Are you going to adopt that for your system?
Why? It's already here.